Good evening, honorable speakers and my dearest student friends. I am pleased to welcome you to the opening of this important interactive discussions on Japan's nuclear waste plan. What is our response? Without further ado, let me introduce you our honorable speakers who will share to us their insights. The first, Professor Miwako Hosoda, PhD. She obtained her master and doctoral degree from University of Tokyo. She also studied at Columbia University Mailman School of Public Health and Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Dr. Hosoda is a president of International Sociological Association's Research Committee of Sociology of Health. She joined Seiza University in 2012 and served as president of the Asia Pacific Sociological Association's 2017 to 2020. In 2020, she founded Inclusive Action for All, a general incorporated association. Our second speaker is Maria Nolindano, PhD. She obtained her Master of Environmental Governance from the Australian National University, while doctoral degree was in Environmental Studies, specializing on environmental studies, specializing on environmental governance from the Australian National University. Dr. Dano in 2019 joined the University of Science and Technology of Southern Philippines, where she is now an associate professor while serving as the deputy director of the Institute of Governance, Innovations, and Sustainability. So hopefully that these interactive discussions will provide a lot of knowledge and raise our awareness about the issue of nuclear waste. Before we plan to ask Pater Jojo Fung to be moderated our discussions, but now I take over this duty. Now I give screen for Dr. Miwako Hosoda to explain your insight and give us your knowledge and insight. Thank you. The screen is yours, Dr. Miwako Hosoda.
Thank you very much, Veronica. It is a great honor to participate in this webinar, which is organized by the International Movement of Catholic Students in Asia Pacific. I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to Father Giorgio and colleagues for this kind invitation. My name is Miwako Hosoda, a sociologist in Japan. I'd like to discuss with you about how to create a society where people can live in harmony with nature, especially based on the reflection of nuclear power plant accident. Before that, I'll give you a talk on protecting the natural environment and creating a society in harmony with the Earth's natural circulation system. The impact of science and technology on human life has given rise to technology-mediated environment, presenting new issues concerning environmental ethics. Having pointed out the needs for sustainable development in the global society, preservation of the ecosystem, including the regulation of carbon dioxide emission, has become a worldwide issue. In such a situation, Japan's previous status was to pursue only the country's economic development. Japanese society has faced many major environmental problems such as air and water pollution due to the rapid economic development since the 1960s. It is considered that nuclear energy has the potential to reduce pollution, cut greenhouse gas emissions, and help countries attain more energy independence. Presently, 30 countries produce the use nuclear energy. Some, like France, produce large portions of their electricity from nuclear power plants. Brazil and Netherlands produce small percentage of electricity by nuclear power. Some countries like China have investing heavily into construction and new plants. Germany have long-term plans to phase the plants out. Japan is a country with few fossil fuel and considered nuclear power is an important energy source. So there are 33 nuclear power plants. It is said that nuclear power plants have certain advantage. However, it has a lot of problems. Two major problems of nuclear power plants are accidents and the disposal of nuclear waste. As you may know, on March 11, 2011, the Great East Japan earthquake occurred. The earthquake triggered a tsunami. The tsunami caused nuclear power plant accident too. The nuclear power plant of Tokyo Electric Power Company, TEPCO, accident caused more damage to Fukushima than the other prefecture nearby. Immediately after the earthquake, the active reactor automatically shut down. The sustained fission reactors. However, and to operate to pump to cool reactor, and the nuclear power plant accidents have occurred. So this is a picture right after the earthquake. And in areas that have been contaminated by radiation, the decontamination work has been done to remove the radioactive materials. In order to reduce the amount of radiation received in the living space, constructors scraped off the topsoil covered with radioactive materials, removed branches and fallen leaves, and washed the surface of houses and buildings. The decontaminated soil and fallen leaves were put into the large black bag like this. It is called a flexible container pack and piled up in thousands. 10 years have passed since the commencement of recovery efforts for victims of the earthquake and tsunami. However, the negative impact of the nuclear power plant still remain. Fukushima still have a deeply rooted problem that it must face. It can be called the fourth disaster, the psychosocial predicament. After March 11, 2011, 70% of the radioactivity released by the accident at Fukushima nuclear power plant was released into the Pacific Ocean. The cooling water and groundwater that contacted with the molten nuclear fuel become highly radioactive water. The contaminated water that could be recovered has been treated by the radionuclide removal. And nowadays, about 10,000 tanks are stored. However, in September 2018, it was revealed that strontium-19, iodine 129, and Other elements remained in 80% of the contaminated water treated at the radionuclide removal facility, which is supposed to remove all but tritium. The half-life of tritium is 12.3 years. It takes more than 120 years for the risk to be reduced to negligible level. If taken into the human body, it can be damage genes. At the public hearing held in December 1918, the majority of respondents opposed the ocean discharge. The fact that the treated water contains radioactivity above the standard value and the fact that TEPCO has not disclosed this information to the public. But April 13, 2021, this year, the Japanese government decided to discharge so-called ALPS, Advanced Liquid Processing System treated water stored in the tank at the site of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant into the ocean. Many citizens and fishermen are opposed to this decision. Let's watch the video, which was created by Friends of the Earth (FOE), an international network for the protection of the environment.
'Fishermen in Fukushima are now raising their voices in outcry. In February 2020, a Japanese government subcommittee released a report proposing the release of huge volumes of treated but contaminated water containing radioactive materials such as tritium generated at the TEPCO Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant into the ocean as a realistic option. During public hearings held in 2018, many people opposed this dumping into the ocean and argued that it should instead be stored long-term in tanks on land.
福島県の漁業者としてアルプス処理水の海洋放出には強く反対する。これが県漁連の意見でございます。
However, such opinions are being ignored, and the Fukushima fishermen are questioning this.
一番多い意見、主流の意見っていうのはやっぱもうしばらくタンクに保管するっていう、とりあえずの妥協案だと私は思うんですよ。で、主流意見を排除してるっていうことはどうなのってことね。
The port of Onahama in Fukushima Prefecture, one of Japan's largest fishing ports, this is around 55 kilometers from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Although fishing restrictions have been lifted, the amount of fish landed is still only around 15% of the pre-disaster amount. Fisherman Mr. Shiga fears that if treated water from the nuclear plant is released into the sea, the number of successors will decrease.
海洋放出ありきで支障も何もああいうふうにやって公言してさ言ってるんだ。ただ自分らはこれからのやつを心配してるのは後継者の問題ですよね。まあ甘い時だよ。商店街のやつの魚がさ枝ばえねえ本当に若手なんか困るよ漁業者は本当にまあ仕方問題だってよ。
Like this, it is very severe damage. So the Japanese government decided. Seeing the great damage caused by this nuclear power plant, more and more people are starting to question them. In addition, people are beginning to disapprove economy first ideology. Not only people living in the agriculture and fishing, the government, scientists and engineers and researchers are also willing to cooperate in this movement to rejecting the idea of prioritizing the economy over everything else. Furthermore, rather than simply aiming to protect the environment, this movement is now beginning to present ideas in which both nature and human can coexist. When we think about energy development, there are three issues that need to be addressed. Energy that can replace fossil resources. The second, energy that is environmentally friendly. And third, energy that is sustainable. The United Nations SDGs also include Goal 7, make energy clean and available to all. And also, these 17 goals are all connected. We need to find an integrated way to solve the problem. We need interdisciplinary and international collaboration. For the sake of our future children, we need to protect the global environment without further damaging it. This is an intergenerational ethic. Seeing the tragic situation of the nuclear power plant accident, there has been a movement through Japan to stop nuclear power generation and promote renewable energy. I will introduce renewable energy in Odawara City, Kanagawa Prefecture today. Mr. Yamato Oyamada used to work at the post office, but after 3/11, the earthquake, he decided that nuclear power plant was a bad idea and wants to create a sustainable society. He quit his job at the post office and began to work on the promotion of renewable energy and community development. He started solar sharing in 2016. Solar sharing is an initiative that combines power generation and agriculture by cultivating crops under the solar panel. Mr. Oyamada established Kanagote Farm and has been introducing solar sharing and sell both rice and the electricity. The electricity generated by the solar sharing is purchased by Minna Dendyoku, the electric company, and delivered to consumers who have signed contract. Actually, I myself used to use Tokyo Electric Power Company, but I switched the energy source to Minna Dendyoku. As Mr. Oyamada rent fallow land and gradually increased the number of farms. A number of people began to cooperate with Mr. Oyamada. This year, in 2021, he opened a farmer's cafe called Siesta. This cafe is operated by electricity gathered by solar sharing. Even more, he made Japanese sake, the alcohol, with rice and electricity from his solar sharing land. Mr. Oyamada's solar sharing project has been introduced by the Ministry of Environment as a good model. In Japan, a movement is being promoted to create a society where people and nature coexist in harmony. It is called Morisato Kawaumi or Satoumi or Satoyama. A similar concept to this idea of planetary health, I think. Planetary health takes a serious look at the human political economy and social system. It focused on the relationship between human health and the intimate state of the global environment. It is supposed to promote health, welfare, and fair society. Humans' negative impact on the Earth cause climate change and decreased biodiversity. In planetary health, several issues are noted, and global solidarity and interdisciplinary collaboration are needed to solve problems. We are the community on one planet. In conclusion, we need to respect the nature as an idea circulation within our environment. All are connected and existing in harmony, and human beings are just a part of the cycle. As more people become aware of these natural ties, nature will become rich and flourish. So does people. Thank you for your attention. Veronica? I don't know.
Thank you, Dr. Hosoda, for your comprehensive insight about the fact of nuclear power plant and the planning of Japanese government to throw away the nuclear waste at the oceans. And of course, there is rejections in especially from the farmers group and no not the farmers, I mean fisheries, fisheries groups who reject the planning. Now this is we will give time for Dr. Nolindano to present your insight for us. Dr. Nolindano, the screen is yours.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Veronica of Indonesia, and thank you, everyone. I think I could recognize Jojo here. Father Joe is now here. So
Yeah,
thanks
that's very
for
good.
that. Good evening. Yes. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Miwako. And again, good evening. Yes, good evening. Good evening, everyone. And thank you, International Movement of Catholic Students Asia Pacific, for this invitation. I think it's an honor to give some comments or some thoughts on Dr. Miwako's presentation tonight. And it will just be very short because this will just be a prelude to the open forum. So I think we will give more time to the open forum, to the Q&A. And so just quickly, I'll give some reactions or a few comments. No? So let me share. Where is it? Okay. Okay, is it working now? Is my presentation working?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I do have questions also for Dr. Miwako, no? So I think we would especially on the recent updates of that decision made by the Japanese government. So, but just very quickly, I'll give a few comments on the presentation. But so I'll start off with a sort of a summary of the presentation. So this is like sort of a recap of what was given to us tonight by Dr. Miwako. And then she started off with an emphasis on Japan's rapid development, and along with that, there are also like major environmental problems, specifically pollution. She highlighted pollution problems, both in pollution in the water and the seas. No, so and then the growing is so inspiring, and it's encouraging to hear. No, this emphasis also given that there is a growing movement rejecting the idea that the economic development should be prioritized over everything else. So that's, I think, telling, no? And that's not just happening, I guess, in Japan, but also across the globe. So hopefully that would really get, grow more, no? That movement. Okay, and then there's this mention also, and very importantly, the Fukushima triple disaster. So the earthquake, the tsunami, and the nuclear power plant accident, plus the fourth disaster is a social predicament that the Japanese society, especially those local communities there, have experienced in 2011. And very recently, this very alarming decision by the Japanese government to dispose of over 1.23 million tons of radioactive wastewater stored in tanks at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant into the Pacific Ocean. So that is a very recent decision, just a few months ago. And then there was also a mention, there was also a discussion on renewable energy and the importance of looking at renewable energy's compatibility with well-being both in the ecological and social sense, no? So ecological and social well-being. So along this line, I'd like to make mention on a few arguments or key arguments against nuclear as renewable energy or part of the RE, list. No, so there's this publication from the Stanford University that mentions that one of those key arguments is the fact that uranium deposit on Earth is finite, unlike solar and wind. And of course, this arguments came up because some proponents would really are really trying to put forward the idea that nuclear energy is clean energy. So, and then another argument from those opposing this idea is that the nuclear waste is considered as a radioactive pollutant that goes against the notion of a renewable energy source. So I think there is some like debates on this aspect, no? And this is particularly relevant also, especially with the latest development that is the decision made by the Japanese government. And then there was also a discussion given by the professor on zooming in on the mitigating measures or some solutions for priority global environmental issues. And if you try to reflect on those 5 solutions or mitigating measures that were mentioned, 5 of those 10, namely creating the clean energy future, reviving the world's oceans, protecting our health by preventing pollution, ensuring safe and sufficient water, and fostering sustainable communities, they are directly incompatible with the government's decision now to release the Fukushima's wastewater into the ocean. And last slide for this summary. Of course, UN SDGs can never be forgotten in discussions like this. No? So sustainable development was also linked to the discussion, particularly zooming in on the UN SDGs. And the professor has mentioned a few cases wherein we could see the harmonious or the coexistence, the sustainable coexistence of people and nature. And there were sustainability themed initiatives also given or presented, reflecting a landscape approach in development. And I think in that particular photo that the professor has shown to us, you can see some connectedness, of people from upland to the lowland, or from ridge, river to reef, basically. And then this emphasis on planetary health, that the health of human civilization and the natural systems on which it depends, and that it was emphasized that damaging the planet damages human health, of course, and then challenges that the human health faces include, of course, climate change, and then climate change induced disasters, including these extreme weather events. These are like climate change has induced disasters, but we also know that climate change is human induced, and then we also have like human induced disasters. Okay, so call for interdisciplinary collaboration, yes, that was emphasized for ecological and human well-being. So I just like to comment further on few salient points that were mentioned or that were discussed by Professor Mikato. And then so Japan's so she started off with saying that as early as 1960s, along with Japan's rapid economic development, the society or the Japanese society had also faced the major environmental problems, particularly pollution So I think, Japan's trajectory is like just a microcosm of the global society, and that is very much a reflection of what's of the pathway that the region in particular has also followed. No, I mean, let's try to think, for example, the very region where we belong. No, most of us belong. So that's the Asia Pacific. So in this particular figure, we can see here that Asia is the most dynamic region with rapid economic growth, lifestyle change, growing consumerism, and waste generation. So we always have, or we can't help but ask this question, like, so if there is economic growth, if there is economic development, so are we really to expect always that there will be environmental problems that we need to confront? So I'm just showing this graph, no, as a reminder. I'm sure many of us are familiar with this particular graph, which gives evidence that CO2 has increased since Industrial Revolution, and even what was mentioned earlier, no, 1960. So that's just like a decade after the 1950, and where when the Industrial Revolution started, and so that's also the time that there's really a consistent increase of CO2 emissions. So I'm just like showing this as a reminder. And then now we're confronted with this controversial decision made by the Japanese government, no? And so which has spurred or triggered lots of strong oppositions from not just from the neighboring countries, but of course South Korean government and the Chinese government have really like expressed their strong oppositions regarding this matter. But then this goes beyond the neighboring let's say countries, because lots of players across the globe have also expressed opposition and disappointment with this decision, no? So and then and as I mentioned, and here, of course, among those from the civil societies group, among those who were really vocal about this strong opposition, we have the Greenpeace, and we have the Friends of the Earth, and many more. And I'm sure, a student movement like this international movement of Catholic students, for example, hopefully they would this kind of discussion would really encourage some response, no, to help address this. So yes, and then there are also key arguments in favor of the decision, of course, no, and then I mean, we cannot undermine that the Japanese government must have based also their decision on some like say pieces of evidence, or some like strong findings probably, and beliefs. And so this, for example, in few of the news articles that I've read, no, there were some scientists and there were also engineers in this field who have expressed support of the decision. So it's really very contentious, although we will see that, as the professor has emphasized earlier, that most of the Japanese people are really, I mean, there's also a result of a polling done by Greenpeace. I've read, no, that a lot of people, not only from those who are directly impacted by that, no, in the Fukushima, but also others, no, in the Japanese society in general, are really against this decision. And then yes, this is just to show to you, like it's mentioned here, for example, that industry groups and nuclear scientists say other nuclear plants have disposed of wastewater this way with minimal impact. So I think that's trying to buttress the argument that it's not really something to be very much worried about. But then environmental groups, fisheries organizations, and neighboring countries immediately condemned the decision, citing the vast amounts involved. No? And in fact, marine scientists express also concerns about the possible impact of the discharge on marine life and on fisheries. And so, in fact, no, some of those who are really opposing this decision have already like pointed out some of the findings, no, on health effects of tritium, no, as published in reflected in some of the peer-reviewed publications or journals. Okay, and then yes, we probably, like me, you also have questions like why did Japan make that decision? Now I'm also I'm also wondering, and I'm also questioning, especially that if you try to review the environmental performance index, and this was in 1918 report, no, by the Yale University. Japan, of all the countries in Asia, is really ranked at the top when it comes to overall environmental performance. No, in fact, it's 20th out of 180 countries, and it's closer to the environmental performance of many in Scandinavian countries and other countries in the Europe that are really at the top. No, so it's a top as far as the Asia Pacific is concerned. So this makes us wonder, like, why that decision? I mean, we have these questions, but then when I try to look at this environmental performance index more closely, I see that there are two particular areas in which the Japanese, no, or Japan in particular, is not is not performing well. In fact, is very it ranked so low, no. And this is the fisheries and what's this? Yes, fisheries and climate and energy. So only these two that they perform really very poorly. And when you try to look at that, it magnifies somehow. It speaks volume of this, of what's happening also these days. I mean, relevant to the decision made. No, so there is these two, fisheries and climate and energy, are very much linked also to this current issue that the Japanese society is facing. So yes, the question now is that are we always confronted with trade-offs when we talk of environmental growth? So are we always does that always mean a sacrifice of ecosystem sustainability if we want economic security? So is it not possible to turn this seemingly tensions, into synergies for collective actions that would really be compatible with what's good for social and ecological well-being? So there is that question, because that seems to be the prevailing model. But then another emphasis or highlight in the presentation of the professor is the interconnectedness of social and ecological systems. And so harming one would also tantamount to harming the other. And so there is a call, and what was emphasized there is an interdisciplinary collaboration to defend planetary health. And I would like to add intersectoral as well. And especially this audience, most of the members of this audience are from the academia, mostly students. So I think there is this challenge, no, in responding that call. How can we help, no, to be in solidarity, especially with those who will be directly impacted if that really materializes. And there's this challenge to respond. And so yes, I just like to be reminded with that African philosophy, no, because I think this really emphasizes the our connectedness, and the challenge to respond. And there is a room to do something, because the fact remains that even if the decision has already been announced, but it will take around 2 years before these discharges commence at the Fukushima Daiichi plant. And so there is that period wherein both different actors, no, both state and non-state actors can probably help in aborting that plan, no, and so that it won't happen. So I hope that this the open forum, no, would enable us to think of some of the ways in which we can respond to this call. So I think with that I end, and thank you very much, and I hope to participate also more in the Q&A, and I have also a few questions to our speaker. Okay, thank you very much. Good evening again, everyone.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Nolindano, for the very comprehensive perspective from the ecology about the sustainability environment. This is very enrich our perspective to look at this disposal of the nuclear waste. So now we open the forum for the question and answer. So while we are waiting for the participant who wanted to raise the questions, let me ask both speakers about this. I have a question for both of you. Is it normal for the government, because I don't have any background for the environment science, so I'm asking you about is it normal for the state who depend on the nuclear power plant to dispose their nuclear waste on the oceans? Because I heard from the news that some countries like French and others, even United Nations, they dispose the water, they dispose the nuclear waste at the ocean. So I need these clarifications from both of you.
So, so let me clarify. The Japanese government decides the cooling water. They dispose the cooling water of the radioactive, uh, power plant. They do not throw out the nuclear power plant waste. It is huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, you understand, Veronica?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, every country never the discharge nuclear power plant waste. It's prohibited, and no country can do it. The Japanese government, what Japanese government is planning to do is to discharge the cooling water to which is you know which is from touched with the nuclear power plant.
Yes, but I heard that French government, they dispose the nuclear waste to the oceans, because I saw the news about that. That's why.
You know,
So I'm
nuclear
thinking that is it normal, or so? Of course,
maybe
I don't
maybe
agree with this
maybe
action. That
nuclear power plant. I know the waste is totally dangerous and harmful, and it should be covered, under the ground or some particular place, and it is operated, under the international contract. And the now, what Japanese government planning to do is the water, which is, you know, so let me show the PowerPoint. This water, the water, the underground water, which is, you know, you know, through which runs under the nuclear power plant, and uh, the water, this part, the underground water, which pass through under the nuclear power plant, and the water which is close to the nuclear power plant. So the nuclear waste is in the reactors. Of course, it is so harmful and not, and it should be, managed in the particular way. So please don't misunderstand this part.
Mm-hmm.
yes, this is of course this is very dangerous planning. That's why I raised that question. I just read from the news about some countries, they did it in the past time to dispose the nuclear waste on the oceans. This is only my questions. And then
in the term nuclear power waste and the water, contaminated water, is totally different things. Could you please explain, Maria? Yeah.
Okay, I'm afraid I'm not also an expert in that particular, that particular topic, that subtopic in the environment field. The environment is so broad, and I don't have an expertise on that. And but just to respond to your question, if it's normal for government to just do that, I think we are governed by policies, regulations, laws, no. So there, it's not. I think it would be too sweeping to say that this country or that country did that, or otherwise it would be a very big news already these days or something like that. So I think the Japanese government, that's what Dr. Miwako was trying to explain or elaborate, is that there's a big difference between what you've mentioned and the plan of the Japanese government. So in fact, no, there are proponents of that decision that the Japanese government has done, that we're trying to really say that it's safe, it's not dangerous. But of course, that in itself is contentious, no. So and there is still lots to be proven if indeed it's not safe. But according to we believe that when we better err in the side of safety, no. So I think it's too risky. That's why there are really more and more sectors, and in fact more scientists also from various fields who are trying to help, no, the communities in Japan, trying to support also, no, their case that this should be opposed, no. So I think that's my comment for now on that
We
particular
should
question.
start the same terminology and same target. And so as I told you, the nuclear power plant waste, of course it is not the target which we are discussing, and which the fishermen and the government are discussing. They are discussing about the water which is in the tank, which is already managed by the ARPS system, the advanced leakage processing system. So this system, it is supposed to purify the wasted water into the the regular non-harmful water. So the theoretically that water can be as a non-harmful water theoretically. However, there are some doubtful issues are occurred, and also the fishermen are very worried about the stigmatized and the bad rumor about the fishery in this area.
Okay, yes, good. So thank you very much, Professor Miwako. Yeah, thank you very much, Nolin. Thank you, Dr. Veronica, for asking the question. So my apology for coming late. I just finished dinner. So anyway, I enjoyed your prepared presentation. No? So there are 23 participants in this webinar. I open it up to questioning. So anyone can ask a question. There's no right or wrong question. But if you don't understand, please ask. I think the Professor Miwako and Nolin will be happy to answer you. Anybody? Yeah, please. Anyone from Bangladesh, from Indonesia? Anyone? Don't feel shy, huh? Anybody? Yes.
Can I join in the question answer?
Yeah. Otherwise, it end up
I,
with just few of us asking questions.
yeah. Yes.
Let the student ask first, and then after that, I
All
ask you
right.
knowledge.
Okay.
Anyone
Sure.
from the participant? There are 22 of you. I'm sure you know there. Not all of us are experts. Yeah. Maybe you have even a small clarification. Yeah. Please do ask. Yeah.
Okay, maybe me, if
So
I
yeah,
can.
Angie. Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to moderate for you. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Angie.
Okay. Okay, I'm Anggi. I'm from Indonesia. Talking about Japan waste. Actually, I have no idea. This is something like new information for me. But actually, I care about the environment. So I do look like how can this issue impact to our country, also for Asia region. And then I come to think, what can I do? Like I'm as a student or also a part of the Asia. I supposed to like I can contribute something. But then come back to what I'm doing now. Actually, I have my community. It's just like small community doing in research also about environment issues. But then we also were trying to analyze about this issue, the Japan issue, waste on the nuclear. But then we come up to the end like we have no idea, maybe because we have no expert, right? And then how can we collaborate with those who expert it in, and then maybe come to a simple idea, what can we do as a students in this I mean directly to this point, like how can we do, like do we just need to campaign like let's protect our environment, let's don't waste our, like, yeah, something like that? Or maybe do you have any idea what the particular things then like the student can raise the voice and also can take part in campaign that issue? Thank you.
Yes, Miwako and Nolin, both of you are professors of universities. You know, what can students like
Very much,
Angie?
Angie. Yeah, it is a great question. And yeah, and also I think it is a really important thing is to make awareness of about the programs. So Angie said she does not she did not know about the situation in Japan, and especially the nuclear power plant accident after 10 years after that accident. But to paying attention at the such a the current issues, and try to know what is going on, and how the people engaged in these matters. So this is I think the start point. And then if possible, you can hear the person's real voice through the video, or if you can cut and make an interview. And also you had better know the both side, the fisherman side and government side, why government decide such kind of things. So there should be some reason. So as a student and as a researcher, we need to think both sides and gather the information and data, and try to know the reality, and have their own opinion against that issues. Yeah, that is my answer.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor Miwako. Thank you for asking that question. What about Dr. Nolin?
Okay.
What can
Good
a
evening.
student like her do?
Okay, so in my view, I agree with Dr. Miwako, no, that it's important to have the awareness first, that level first, and then once there's now more awareness about the issue and what are the arguments from both sides. I think it's important. It's for me, it's still safe to assume good intention, because once we assume that they are in bad faith in doing that, we tend to be very antagonistic. And then if we tend to be antagonistic, then we might not be able to listen their side and what's really the rationale behind that. And so we may not be able to be effective in trying to convince our side also. And so I think, yes, awareness is one thing, and there are materials and there are lots of information that are spread all over already about this issue. And if the students can do some acts that would be in solidarity with communities, for example, no, and then I think the call for interdisciplinary collaboration is important. And since students, no, you are in an academic environment, no, you are in a university, college, or so I think it's good if like you could like have some like activities for awareness raising, and then you could also link up with some scientists in your university, so that you could also like hear their views, their thoughts on that matter. No, for me, it's even better if you could really have strong, kumbaga, you would have really like let's say representatives of both sides. The more you'd hear from these both sides, then the more that you will have more informed decision in terms of trying to figure out what will be your strategy or what will be your intervention as students. Because you cannot undermine your force actually as students, because you can link up with scientists, experts in the field, in relevant fields within your university. And once you probably could have a position paper, you could make a statement, and then you could have, once it's clear to you that this should be our position, then maybe you could have some signature campaign, collaborate with other students from other universities. I mean, I think there's a very fertile ground for this kind of collaboration, especially for this organizing group, for example, which is the International Movement of Catholic Students, which is all over the globe. No, so even if this is particularly or directly relevant to Asia Pacific, you could even collaborate with IMCA in Africa, or the international office there in Paris. So lots of things that can be done actually by students. And yes, tap your expertise within the university, link up with your professors, faculty members from relevant fields. And yes, not just from one field, but the problem now, no, environment problems have become so complex that we really need lots of lenses, lots of perspectives in looking at things. That's why the more important it is to look into interdisciplinary or even transdisciplinary, groups in looking at a particular issue. So I think that's from my end for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angie, for asking the question. And then, yeah, we have Jyoti from Nepal. She's a master's student. Could we ask you to ask your question, Jyoti, please? Thank you.
Thank
Jyoti.
you, Father. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, good.
Thank you, Father, for providing me this opportunity. And I would like to give my thanks to Maria and Mirako for your insightful presentation. My question is like, what is the major role of individual youth to make sustained green growth economy? Because I believe that green growth economy is all about the living well within ecology limits, where it includes the many things like ecosystem service, like environmental externalities, and so many more things. So how can we as a youth to promote our green growth economy in the context of Asia? Thank you.
Yes, anyone? Dr. Miwako? Dr. Nolan?
Thank you very much. Yeah, it is really important to share the the idea and the future goal together. And I introduce one of such activities like solar sharing in Odawara in Japan, and it is not described as uh, the case of the green growth ecology. However, it can be said very close. The trial, as a you know, so solar sharing does not harm the natural environment because the life party is already cultivated for many years, and to combine the creating the electricity over the top of the rice paddy, it is good for both the environment and the economic development by cultivating the land. So, uh, you know, for my opinion, just protecting nature and just preserve the nature, it is important. However, we human beings has to live on the earth. So, as I mentioned, the harmony between the natural environment and human being is really important. So, we can see the many, the trial like solar sharing. And today I did not introduce, but there are several, the examples which try to make the harmony between the human and nature, or human and animals, and human rights and the sea creatures. So we had we can find many examples which is successfully done to create a harmony, and it could be the model case or benchmarks of many places or many people to uh, initiate such a the good case in their own country. So this can be the role model of the green growth ecology. So I'm very happy to know such an example which will be operated in several countries like Indonesia or Philippines. Yeah, I had one of the example in Caleaga in Philippines. Caleaga, it's the church. The Jojo.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So at
Correct.
there, yeah, it is really wonderful. The green growth ecology is operated. So I'm very happy to know, and maybe you will find some in your community. From
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor Nolin, would you like to respond
Oh,
to Joe?
okay. So green growth. So green growth is, it's still linked to the sustainable development paradigm, right? I mean, it's still linked to the sustainable development in the 1970s, and then we have the ecological modernization in the 80s, and then we have this reflexive modernization in the 90s, which basically claims now to the idea that through innovative technology, no, through technological innovations, we can remedy the seeming clash between environmental protection and economic development. And that's why they say that, okay, this is the response, this is the answer, no? Green growth, or some would use a green economy. So how we are going to promote that? So I guess like having this renewable energy is part of that. But I have a caveat though when it comes to this green growth, green economy. I mean, I happen to write a paper in I think 2012, no, presented in Egypt, and then I have this argument about green growth. I mean, yes, I mentioned here. This happens to be in front of me now, so let me just read this few lines. No, advocates claim that these strategies employing technological innovation to remedy the clash between economic growth and environmental protection. No? The empirical world has shown, however, that advancement in technology for a green economy have benefited some sectors of society while jeopardizing others. This is happening precisely due to the overemphasis in growth, with greening serving as a facade, which muddles the very foundation of sustainable development, subtly removing the issue of equity in the equation. So that's a key argument I had in that particular paper, because I think, yes, it can be easy. It can be easy for some players in the development players across the globe to put forward the idea this we are promoting green growth, we are promoting green economy, and so lots would support that. But then I think one thing that we should also be cautious about is that like how is this, by, like, for example, by promoting biofuel, for instance, what's happening, where does this come from? No, and then what's the dynamics happening in the land and the people and the local communities in the area where that those plants, for example, are I don't know, are sourced out, or the resources are sourced out. So there are things. So I think what I'm trying to say is that these are big words: green growth, green economy, but let's be mindful at the same time of the nuances, what's happening on the ground, because we might at the outset we might appear like protecting the environment, no, and promoting green growth, but then there could be an issue of equity, that is being undermined in the process. So I think that's just a reminder as to how we're going to promote. If we really believe on the essence of green growth or green economy, then yes, we will try to see what technological innovations can still be employed in order to address some of the problems. But I still believe that there are other options also, like, for example, the nature-based solutions. So this is like one of the strategies wherein we also can try to promote, if we want to help addressing environmental problems. So, but that's just one of the many, I think. So
Thank you.
that's it, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jyoti, for asking the questions. We have time for one last question. There are two ladies who ask. Maybe there's a guy who wants to ask a question before we wind up. Is there any student who is a guy who wants to ask a question?
Hello.
Excellent. Rasika, wow.
Good evening to you.
Welcome. Yeah, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So for me, first of all, I would like to appreciate all the presenters. Really, I have enjoyed with all the inputs, and I would also like to appreciate Father Giorgio and William for inviting me to attend this session. Something which I'm confused is we are talking about waste, something it could be nuclear or anything is waste. So waste should be disposed in somewhere, but if not in the ocean, where it has to be disposed? Should we burn it? Then it is still an issue for the air pollution. And what should we do that waste? Yeah, that is something. Yeah, I fully understood all the presentation and I have gotten all the points. But what is clicking my mind is where should we dispose that waste, and what should be our role again that such a waste should not happen again. Thank you very much.
Yes, yeah, Dr. Miwako, would you like to respond to that question?
So can I clarify the question? Hi,
Yes.
Fatika, you're from Ethiopia. Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. So your question is Can I clarify how we can know the wastewater goals, and how can we uh, e- examine the the discharge after the discharge? I think it is beyond my capacity. Um, you know, it is really, I think it is really difficult to follow up how it is going, and we need to think the first generation and the generation afterward. So you know it is so huge amount of items which are unknown, and it is totally uncertainty. So that's why we are afraid. You know, according to the sociological theory, we have the fear against the unknown and uncertainty. So um, if we know the effect or and with a negative effect or positive effect, so we can understand and can and will be able to consider and determine which is good or which is good, not good. However, there are so huge area which are unrevealed and unknown to the human being, in this point. So we are afraid of doing so without saying anything. So this is my answer at this point.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, what about Dr. Nolan? Would you like to respond to Fasika's question from Africa? Huh?
Yeah, I think there is still no clear answer to that as of this time. Now, I mean, I read a few materials relevant to this issue in Japan, no, which is really a hot topic there these days. And but one thing that is what we should be alarmed about is the potential harm if this will be released. No, so I think the focus is more on that. While during this 2-year period prior to the set time for the release, there could be more research that can be done. What will be a better alternative than releasing this to the ocean? No, so I think that's probably the more pragmatic way of looking at it this time, because really there are, I mean, some scientists would say that it's not that dangerous. It's okay, but then so many are also too afraid because of the likely harm, no, considering the food chain, considering also potential effects to our health, no. So there are so many impacts that were really provided already, likely impacts. So I think more research can be done during this period, and hopefully that gets really aborted, that plan, or unless it would really be so convincing that it's the better option than not releasing it. So I think that's my take as of this time, Pasika.
Thank
Actually,
you.
today I only focus on the water release in the Fukushima power plant. However, it is just a small example. You know, in this world, the still now so many nuclear power plants are constructing in many places. Some countries like German, they decided to shut down the nuclear power plant, but still in German, some of the certain amount of the nuclear power plant are operating. In Japan too, there are 33 nuclear power plants, and so far, most of them are, under examination, and 4 nuclear power plants are operating. So it means, even only the whole nuclear power plant, we can live. We have sufficient, electricity through the nuclear, renewable energy and some other sources. So, if we change the mind that the nuclear power plant is the important energy source, so we can change the energy source from the nuclear power plants to something more clean and green.
Yeah.